muzzle-loaded flintlock pistol using black powder could also be banned under C-21. Is it your experience as law enforcement professionals that these are being used on the streets? We know that the RCMP and many police forces across the country are dealing with massive issues with staffing challenges. Can you comment on how the added regulatory burden of this new government legislation could impact police's ability to carry out their mandate to keep the public safe?
It just adds more duties to their already expanded mandate. So at what cost does that come to the Canadian public? It creates larger screens on the dispatch screen. It creates more files for the members to go to. And are we looking at longer wait times for other
I'm just wondering,
presence?
Will resources be diverted from dealing with illegal gun crime to deal with legal gun owners who will have their firearms taken away?
I would suspect they will. You know, you are adding an added job to police officers across Canada.
At our last meeting, we heard from the Canadian Mounted Shooters Association, who said that their sport, which uses primarily single-action revolvers, will be destroyed because of this handgun freeze. In your experience, are single-action or even double-action revolvers a weapon of choice by criminals, or a firearm of choice by criminals?
I'm not a gun guy, so you would have to actually speak to an expert about that and analyzing the gun crime in Canada.
Maybe to the CACP. Are revolvers, like single-action revolvers, are those the handguns that you're primarily worried about that criminals are using?
I would say not primarily. The reality is criminals that are going to use a firearm in the commission of an offense are going to grab and use anything they can.
Not your revolvers. Now, under this handgun freeze, I've been made aware by some stakeholders that the reproduction of firearms that were designed before 1898, including a flintlock pistol here, as you can see, I'm sure the witnesses can see, a muzzle-loaded flintlock pistol using black powder could also be banned under C-21. Is it your experience as law enforcement professionals that these are being used on the streets?
Mr. Just wanted to confirm, and this is just for my own personal knowledge, are we allowed to use props in committee?
I don't think there's a rule on that. We can't use props in the House, but we often have witnesses distribute samples of various things and so forth. So I think it's in order. So thank you.
So the question to the law enforcement, is it your experience that these firearms are being used on the streets in the commission of crimes?
I would say it would be rare.
Any cases that you can think of?
None that I can think of off the top of my head. But
Thank you. Back to the National Police Federation. We heard recently that your members need to practice at private ranges in order to maintain proficiency. We also heard that handgun owners' mandatory membership dues are critical to the financial sustainability of these ranges, and that they will close if C-21 should pass. How will shutting down of these private ranges impact your members' ability to train?
Well, it's going to place a greater responsibility on the RCMP to expand their training capacity, and ultimately that's going to put us in a position of asking the RCMP to across Canada have government approved or RCMP approved training facilities versus just being able to use the local shooting range.
And my final line of questioning, we've had a number of witnesses from across the political spectrum on this debate that have drawn a lot of concerns about the so-called red flag laws in this legislation. We had a chief of police who suggested that if people go to the court system instead of calling 911, that they could be putting themselves in more danger. Do you think that these red flag laws are necessary? Aren't police already responding to victims' calls when firearms are present?
Yes, police are responding, and they do take firearm calls very seriously.